one good thing is that large enterprises, they're facing a lot of challenges. I don't know about in Singapore, but in China, they are so worried that they are just going to be all these sort of targets that be disrupted by this all the new companies. For instance, the Chinese CEO of Unilever once told me that his biggest worry is that Unilever produces shampoo, right? So his biggest worry is that 80% of Unilever China sales are in e-commerce. So very different from the United States or Europe, that they have all the consumer data. It's actually Alibaba or JD.com has all their consumer data. So one day, if Alibaba wants to do shampoo themselves, Unilever will only be the supplier. And probably one day, it doesn't even need Unilever to be a supplier because they can find a supplier that supplies Unilever that directly supply to Alibaba. So the challenge for all these big companies, they already understand it's not just about speaking of digital transformation. It's really about digital transformation. So they want to have their own data. They want to have they want to be able to own, process, and use their data. But very unfortunately, all these sort of companies offer to engineers, data scientists, not even equal to my company. They are not able to offer options. They are not able to offer stock options, higher salary. So they are actually not able to attract any talent in the industry. So at the beginning, they work with consulting firms like Accenture, but they realize that they are not just want for a solution. They want innovation partners that can evolve with them. So they don't want to tell the consultant that this is what I want and you do it for me. They actually want to give only consultant, they want to give their partners only a question that they don't even know the answer. So in the past 3-4 years, when we start this company, we feel really lucky because all these large enterprises, they're really looking for innovation, not just sort of innovation as a PR strategy. They're really looking for innovation and innovative results. So they understand if you want innovation, of course, Alibaba will never do a customized version for you. You can only work with startups. And by working with the startups, you also have the startup mindset. So I think that's kind of the situation when we work with the large enterprise. We're not begging them to get them. They are actually very open for it right now.
And since the number of designers in the audience, what advice would you give to designers in terms of how they can continue to evaluate the ecosystem, or should they learn AI as well, or what should they do?
No, I think a lot of misconception about AI. I'm not sure, and I can be very clear. Well, can speak so too straightforward. I don't think I should speak too straightforward. But the misconception about AI is a deep technology. I don't think AI is deep technology. I think AI is something that everyone should have a basic understanding of. And if a lot of large companies like Google, Ali Cloud, they start to opening a lot of their AI capability. Like TensorFlow and Ali also have its AI as a service sort of thing. So we should be able to use AI as well as a designer, just like we used Photoshop 30 years ago. And I think that's why we do something called report, because we want to publicize AI in the creative economy. So first, yes, designers should learn AI, should learn machine learning, and this would be basically knowledge. And the second is that there are two ways to understand, AI. First is that can AI do design? The second is if design has a very basic sort of supply skill that each industry needs design, right? Then if each industry has already turned into digital economy, and how design can tap into that digital economy. So you have to have AI sort of literacy or digital economy literacy in order to do the supporting role.
Before I ask more questions, I'd like to open up to the floor. Any question? Yeah, just introduce yourself.
I'm Laura. Yeah, thanks. Firstly, thanks very much for taking the time. I'm really interested in understanding how the whole movement of open banking APIs or just open APIs is impacting your business, because data seems to be more and more readily available or being made more openly available in order to encourage innovation.
Well, I guess on one hand, yes, more and more data is available, and more companies are willing to share data into either open API or other kind of ways. But still, you have to have a way to collect the data in order to share. But I think in the supply side, not the demand side. Demand side is consumer side or every user side. But the supply side, not the infrastructure that built for collecting the supply side data is not even ready. Let me give you one example. We work very closely with Alibaba. I've said so many examples about this company. Just remain in this room. It's a data company, right? But we work very closely with their marketing departments. And I asked their CMO, I said, if you want to share one very great case that done by, for instance, Taobao, to the team at Tmall, which is a different unit, what would you do? How would you do it? And he said, I will go to a website that showcases marketing campaigns that's not belong to Alibaba, and then define that marketing campaign and copy that URL and paste that into internal sort of collaboration softwares. So even a company like Alibaba, they don't have a centralized library that to collect, to analyze their supply side data. So you can see, it's not even at the stage what you would do after you have all these open access. It's not even there. And a similar thing happened to, one conversation we had this afternoon with the university, Singapore University of Technology and Design, is that there's a lot of areas that the data is not available. For instance, in the city. The city have already, start to collect data with the surveillance camera and so on and so forth. But still very little data that's been collected. So even open, it's still too little. So there's a lot of areas, the data is just not sufficient.
You talked a lot about tools just now and how they shape the processes or the design process. What do you think are tools that are still missing or that need to plug the gaps until we reach AI to such a scale?
I guess, just give you a very sort of straightforward comparison between a designer and a programmer. A programmer would never open a software and write a code from scratch, right? No programmer will write a code from scratch. But how many designers will open Photoshop, Illustrator, all this kind of software and design from scratch? About 99%, I guess. So which means that although we work with digital tools for so long, designers actually are the first generation professionals that use digital tools compared with the lawyers. But very unfortunately, designers are not very good at turning digital files into data. So, and without turning the digital files into data, without turning all the data to the cloud, it won't have AI. So it's still a long way to go. That's why the original incentive that I build a company instead of just doing research is that I can build a user behavior that all the both sides, seller and buyer side, designer and their clients will leave their process data on the platform, on the cloud. And then after 3 years, we finally got some metadata that we can start to do some AI, but still far from satisfactory.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm more interested in when you're designing your business model, because you're facing corporates, right? So it's to be a model per se. So how do you actually strike the balance in terms of customization versus the standardization? Because you're facing all these large, like Alibaba, they do have lots of bargaining power in terms of giving requirements, and if you serve these clients well, and how do you scale the solution to other clients in the same industry?
Well, I remember one sentence by Fred Wilson, who is a very famous investor. He said that when you're small, you can do things that's not scale. I guess when you want to compete, what's your competitive advantage? We compete against, Accenture and Ogilvy. So when we compete with them, what's our advantage, right? So technology and service. So when we are small, we could do very customized work, but we will leave. By doing that is in order, we know that at the end, the main purpose is to get data. You see WPP, right? WPP is a company with 200,000 people, and its market value is less than WhatsApp. WhatsApp has only 60 people, 60, and WPP has 200,000. So labors is not where the value is, the data is, right? So we need to know that in this industry, the way we compete with Accenture, with WPP, with all these sort of traditional 1.0 version of solution is that we aggregate data. But how we aggregate data, whether it's by labor or it's by technology, we can hold that sort of whatever way we'll use. And when we're small, we're able to use very sort of laborious way. I guess that's the advantage when you start a company. But when you scale a company, you definitely need to turn a laborious way into a solution. So that's, I guess, what we just did, actually. We started to turn that into a solution.
Hi, this is Susanna from Fusion. You were talking earlier about AI churning out hundreds of commercial banners immediately, but at the same time about how AI can expand and go beyond what humans can do because it has limitations. Do you have any examples of some outstanding design, like purely machine-based, that stood out for you? I think success is always contextual, but something that where you said, wow.
Yeah, I think that China's biggest consumer market. So a lot of the commercial creative work are related to marketing advertisement, right? So in order to engage consumers, and China's consumers are so picky, so easy to change, so many choices. So a lot of creative work actually happen. Well, if I look at the global companies like Unilever, a lot of very creative work actually comes out of China market. I give you one example. Again, but maybe this time use another company, Starbucks. Starbucks, the whole brand image is about love and warmth. It's about feeling warm in the heart. So earlier this year, we wanted to do a new series of gift cards. And that was before the Chinese New Year. So we said, before you probably asked a design studio that to do a series of gift cards, right? So why not we do it differently this time? So we built this whole campaign called Nostalgia. Remember where you come from. So there are about 50 cards, and each card represents a city, Shanghai, Beijing, or sometimes a smaller city. And then what we do is to use our database to actually find out three types of designers. One is designer come from that city. The second is the designer who come from that city but is not in that city currently. And the third is the designer who has experience in that city. For instance, his university or the company he worked for used to be in that city. So each designer will draw a very different illustration on that gift card. So by doing so, each gift card, Starbucks very serious sort of visual standard, so you have to follow that. But at the same time, the designer also need to put their personal story, personal passion into it. And then 50 different cities, 50 different designers that have different relationships with that cities. So each card looks so familiar because there's some common components on that. For instance, in Shanghai, you still have that tower. In Beijing, you still have that few elements. But at the same time, you have something that looks so similar but very different. That's personalized contents. So that reflects very well to this idea of nostalgia. And imagine before, when you use a traditional solution, like going to a design studio or agency, how can you do 50, how could you find 50 very different kind of suppliers? And how could you make this 50 people work at the same time on 50 discrete tasks? And we did that within 2 weeks. So I guess all these are possibilities. I would call it PUGC, the user-generated content and professional-generated content, and it's a combination of the two. Because although they are professional designers and creators, but they do it because they have a certain relationship with that.
And who came up with the creative concept, human or machine, to do it that way?
Actually, when the client understands, well, we have two kinds of clients, right? One kind is that they believe that technology dramatically cut their costs. So we're replacing a lot of their traditional solution with cheaper, faster, better choice, right? That's what we call more sort of defensive clients. But we have some of them are very offensive clients, very active clients, like Starbucks. So they will start to think how to challenge your solution, how to challenge the technology that you can offer. So after this 50 simultaneous creative tasks, they challenge us with 200. So I guess you can't say it's one creative or one machine that had this, but we sort of build the infrastructure that made this possible, and the clients or the brands or the business problem that we work with actually give us the opportunity to really challenge this technology infrastructure.
In your experiences fundraising or just talking to investors and everything, do you ever have trouble justifying the value of good design? So there's like a minimum bar you need for design, which is gets the job done, which is functional design. But beyond that, if you want something better, are people willing to pay more for that? Like for Starbucks, for instance, you provided 50 different colors, but you have to follow up and actually monitor how well those actually did in the market, in terms of testing it, whether it actually improved the bottom line or not. So how did you kind of overcome those hurdles in terms of convincing people that good design is better for you and more valuable?
For me, these are two separate questions actually. One is how do you prove the value of design, and second is how do you convince an investor my company has value. Whether or not it's in the design area, right? I probably would prefer answer the second one. The first one, good design is invaluable. It's hard to quantify. That's why we don't quantify the value of design. We rather quantify its relation to business result, right? I still believe, any creative work has its own value, but when it goes to a certain business scenario, some are more suitable for that business scenario than the other. It doesn't mean the ones that are not suitable are bad design or bad creative. But answering the investor question, you know, I always look at company, have two stages. One stage is the trust of the founder, and the second is trust of the business. And for Series A, for seed round, it's really about trust of the founder. When the venture capitalists invest in Google, did they really can foresee Google's going to do cars or maps? So it's really about trusting the founder that have the capability that keep growing the company. And I think the first thing we need to convince, as founders, we need to convince the investor is we have value. We have value because we know what we do. So first I need to convince them I'm valuable. And the second is that second stage, remember when I said Sequoia invest in us, I guess that's the most critical round for us, is that in their mindset, they believe professional service needs also to be revolutionized in China. We have the service like delivery, like car sharing. These are what I call low-skilled professionals. But you also have the high-skilled professionals like design, creative, consulting, all these kind of things. And then if the low-skilled professionals already have all these kind of disruptive technology that's changed the way it works, then the high-skilled professional will also have that potential. And Sequoia saw that potential. So they're looking for companies in that sector. And what I need to convince them is that it's good, it was smart to start with design and creative. And I convinced them with three reasons. One is design is very fundamental, not in terms of skill set, but fundamental that supports each industry. Every industry has 1 to 5% that spend on design, right? Car industry, internet industry, product, manufacturing, all kinds of industry. Or if you deal with design, then you deal with any industry, right? The second is that it's already huge and growing. Although they don't believe. Well, no one would think designers is such a big population, but if you have a number, right? I give them the number 70 million. In the Alibaba ecosystem, 1.5 million designers working in that ecosystem. And currently in the university, 3 million students are studying design-related subjects. So that's a huge number for them. Each one, if that gets basic salary, is already a big market. And the third is that designers, creative, are very much technology savvy. All of them use technologies. All of them have internet access. Just like 30 years ago, they already started using Photoshop, right? So they're very willing to use technology to help them. So all these three reasons seem to make sense, and then so they bought it. I guess.
Maybe one last question.
Okay. Thanks for sharing your learning. Two things. The first thing is, I just want to check my understanding. The company or the service that your company offered is very similar to platforms such as Fiverr, correct? Where you basically kind of like, clients will engage you. In this case, you would be the agency, right? And you will connect with various creative or designers to work consecutively or concurrently to deliver something of value, right? And you would use artificial intelligence that is being developed by your company to create some form of uniformity that these designers are producing. That's the first question. The second question is, you know how you produce all these reports, right? I just want to understand, how do you get the data, where do you get the data, and how do you know whether these are the real trends that potentially we should be focusing on in aspects of design?
Could you say the second question again? How I got the data.
How you get the data, whether this data is a representative in terms of the trends that might happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years down the road, right?
Good. Let me answer the second question first. The data comes from 3 resources. One is what we got on our own platform, and also in a collaborative platform from others like Alibaba's data as well. So that's sort of more from the business side data. The second, we do polls, we do survey. So last year we had about 6,000 survey results. Not huge, but sizable enough to send some trend. And the third is that we got data from other reports and other research. So for instance, 89% of the unstructured data that comes from a report that I was also part of it, which produced by World Economic Forum. And there are some other data like the percentage of the possibility of automation that comes from a McKinsey report. So in this the report we have, I call it more like an index. So we actually get opinions and numbers from all kinds of resources, but target towards design and AI area. So I guess the more meaningful part in the report is to turn all these sort of AI research that into a certain domain, and that domain is what I care for. So I less care for AI, I'm more care for creative work, and why the trend is meaningful or valid, I don't know. So you say are the trends sort of can validate itself in the future, right? I don't know. I will let everyone to judge. As long as there's readers that feel it's helpful, it's meaningful, and I will keep doing that. And this year we have translations in English and Japanese, all by volunteers. Very high-profile volunteers. I really appreciate that. And also people want to translate that in German. I don't know whether that's meaningful, but so it means that there's readers that in all different contexts. And first question, it's a good question. However, what we see, just like I sort of very briefly explained what we did at the beginning, we thought we're doing an Uber for creativity. At that time, 3 years ago, we think that anything can be Uberized, can have the shared economy version. But the fact is that no. So Fiverr is one way to interpret sharing the skill. That each skill can be commoditized into $5. While on the other hand, the reason why we do AI is I believe when you are able to use AI to design banners, some part of the human intelligence will be even more valuable than before. So on one hand, you have some work that can be so tedious, so easy to be replaced, while on the other hand, some part of the work will be even more valuable for human touch. So all the work in Fiverr or all the work in some other sort of very so-called gig economy, I think 90% of them can be automated. So then we lead to, should I build a platform for the kind of skill that can be automated, or should I build a platform that for the human skill that will be even more valuable when the AI comes in? So we decided to do
So perhaps you can actually talk deeper in terms of how your Starbucks example, or which part of that Starbucks example AI come into the picture to develop those 50 cards, right? So because that part, it's still very hazy in my head, I'm not sure about the rest, Because you said you engage designer who live from that, who's currently living in that city, who came from that city, who has been to that city. So 3 types of designers, right? To develop a card for a single city. And you did this across 50 cities, right? 3 times 50 is 150 designers, right?
So 2 things, right? One is that how could you keep a real-time digital model for all these 150 designers? That needs a lot of machine learning. And the second, how can you maintain or manage 150 simultaneous happening jobs? That needs a lot of technology. So it's not about creating cars. That part I think is craftsmanship. It actually needs to be human work.
Okay.
But how do you manage 150? And probably for us, we have 1,000 simultaneous work. How can we manage that? That is technology challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it kind of counter. I'm just trying to relate back to what you shared, right? Because there's this graph of 7 or 8 core competency, right? The first one, which is like management, which is humane or human domain. But in this case, what you're saying is it's being managed by the artificial intelligence.
It's managing on your own work, that's human work. But at the same time, if a platform needs to manage 1,000 work at the same time, that's a technology.
So we can just build up on this question, right?
Really last question.
Yes. So I think I understand where it's coming from because I'm Mark, I'm an architect.
Okay, good.
Okay, so so my question is that of course it's very interesting the whole idea of building 50 cards, managing 150 designers, right? So how did the platform actually help? That's what I think you don't get, right? Which I don't get either. What did the platform actually do to get that single card out, collaborating 3 designers? Did they feed in their design, 3 different designs to the AI? And the AI said, no, don't do this. Change the color to brown or something like that. Or is it trade secret?
Let me be very sort of straightforward about something I share in this example and some of the number I share. So remember, there's a number that 58% of the creative tasks actually spend on creativity.
Right.
So you see, like you're an architect, you always have to deal with the deadlines, right?
Yeah.
So why the deadline happen? It's not because you are slow. It's because a lot of miscommunication, a lot of the sort of the data collection process probably have some problem. So it's really about the process that make a problem, right? So what we do, we always believe, in order to create a nice illustration, that's craftsmanship. But we probably have 3 weeks to work on the illustration, but at the end we only have 2 days to work on that. The other sort of 2.5 weeks we spend on miscommunications and things like that. So you're saying that when a designer gets a brief, how does he produce the illustration? I think that's his work, right? That's his human craftsmanship, and we just have to guarantee he has enough time to do that. And what we do is first to make one project into 50 cities, and 50 cities into each one has 3 designers with different backgrounds. And that 3 designers will get the project, sign a contract, in no time, in real time. And then so that they can concentrate on producing that part, we don't do we don't intervene. And then, but we have to manage the process, 150 process at the same time. And then to collect 150 results and then deliver that into a sort of a work to the client. So you see, like the middle part, the craftsmanship part, we try to intervene as little as possible. We believe on human craftsmanship, but the way how we sort of separate the work and arrange the work and manage the work, that's technology.
Okay, but one of the problems designers face is always the iterative process, because you always go back and forth with clients. So did your platform actually help to alleviate that process?
I don't think that process can be alleviated. But a lot of time, the back and forth is because the client doesn't know what he wants.
Right.
Let me give you one. Well, if you guys still have time, I can give one more example that takes 5 minutes. One company we work a lot with is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has a very strong brand image. but in China, it's losing attraction to younger people because the one that knows Coca-Cola, they cannot drink things that have too much sugar. The people that can drink sugar, they have a lot choice. So the younger generation have a lot more choice, right? So Coca-Cola came to us, but before that they went to consulting firms. They went to, for instance, McKinsey, and they asked for how to innovate their packaging in order to engage younger people. And then so the consulting firm do their consulting work, right? Competitive advantage, market analysis, things like that. But at the end, they just feel it's not right. They're not willing to commit because innovation from 0 to 1 is always difficult. So they came to us like a backup plan. And I said, if you know how AlphaGo learn how to play Go, AlphaGo does not need to learn the rules. It only needs to read the results. And then by building a lot upon the result database, it starts to know what to do, right? So the similar thing that our sort of database can do as well. We don't need to go through the market analysis, target audience analysis, competitive advantage. We don't need to do that 3 months. We already know in order to engage this group of people in the past 3 months, what happened on our platform, right? We know that in order to engage this group of people to change packaging design, okay, we have all these sort of companies already do 5 things, 5 trends. That's like instant result from our database. And within the 5 trends, Coca-Cola can immediately have a meeting to see whether these 5 trends can somehow relate to them. So they can pick 3 trends or they can generate 3 new trends based on this 5. So I always say innovation is very difficult from 0 to 1 because you have to make that hard decision. But it's always easier from 5 to 3. So when you get the 3 trends, when you can describe what you want, you already can find each trend. You can find 3 suppliers on our platform. That's very good at doing that. And within that 3 suppliers, each one can very quickly do 2 directions within 24 hours. And all this whole process takes 48 hours to do. So at the end of 48 hours, you have 3 trends that you all agree on, and the 9 suppliers could be individual or small studio or company, and each one gives you 2 directions that potentially can go to the result. And then you can decide who you want to work with and what kind of direction you want to work with. At the end, they chose 2 suppliers and 3 directions. So by then, innovation is not 0 to 1 anymore. It's a serious sort of 48 hours process of data analysis plus human creativity. And then for the designers, the same thing. Before they spend too much time to understand what the client wants. And now, when they get the project, they already know why they are selected. And for our platform, we hate to do free bidding. We provide a whole service, which is this process. So we know we're going to get the whole money, which is probably $1 million, for instance. And we know that we want to use 10% to go through this process. So each one who contribute will end up getting something. So it's not free bidding. So this is what we sort of think that using AI, using digital technology plus human creativity can actually revolutionize the process, the early process from 0 to 1.